All right, I'm gonna make this a short video because I just turned the air conditioning off and it's gonna get really fucking hot in here really fast. Um, I just want to really make a quick video and talk about this. I think it's worth saying, especially I think more people in my industry should be talking about this. So the tech industry in general, or I should say the software development industry. I have a real issue with what I'm seeing on YouTube from some of the more popular YouTube programming channels about um, the representative tech interview that you should be expected to go through and pass if you want to be a programmer professionally. Um, I just don't agree with them. I don't agree with a lot of the Bay Area and a lot of the mentality around becoming a tech professional in the Bay Area, and there's a reason why I don't live there. I'm going to go into that. But let me just kind of talk from my perspective a little bit. So my channel is very inclusive. It's very built around the idea of you can be a programmer regardless of your background experience, regardless of what degree you have. I know people personally who have had professional success coming from non-traditional backgrounds, becoming programmers and being paid to be programmers and doing very well. And a lot of them would probably agree with me, or at least I hope they would. I want to give another perspective of what I consider becoming a good programmer and becoming successful as far as earning a living doing it. That's not at all what people are seeing on those other channels. I see people commenting and saying like, oh wow, I just learned JavaScript and now I'm discouraged after looking at this ridiculous ass 45-minute interview that might be representative of what Google would do or what Facebook would do. And I'm not calling out any other channels by name, but that does piss me off. That's bullshit. That's gatekeeping. And I'm here to say that that's, it's just, I don't know. Well, anyway, so before everyone comes in here, especially people from outside my channel, and say, you don't know what you're talking about, let me just kind of quickly go over my track record. I don't want to toot my own horn too much. I'm definitely not some Bay Area big shot coder, and nor would I ever freaking want to be. But I have been in the tech industry professionally for 15 years. I did the day job thing for a while as a lead engineer, led a team of some people. I did that for a while. I did the startup thing. I've done the contractor thing. That's what I do now. So now I'm a services guy. I do professional programming contracts. I've done that for the better part of the last 6 years, and I've been fortunate enough to be under a full load, meaning I haven't had to try too hard to find work. And that's a whole discussion about networking and respect and things that I've talked about in the past that I feel like are missing from the typical gatekeeping mentality of some of these, just some of the stuff I see, as far as what the typical interview process is almost like the introduction to a side of tech that I don't like, that will take particularly good candidates and good engineers and turn them away from an otherwise lucrative career path. So yeah, just a little bit more about my track record. I've had clients ranging from small startups, medium-sized firms. I've had all the way to household names and brands that you would definitely know if I brought them up. I've been fortunate enough to visit companies, meet people in tech that get into boardrooms that blow my mind. I've been very fortunate in this industry, and again, I think I've seen a side of inclusion, and good things that I don't feel like are talked about enough. So myself, I have actually interviewed dozens of candidates throughout my career. As either a lead developer role as part of a day job or as part of a contractor on behalf of other companies, helping them pick candidates to help them out, especially when maybe my contract is done with them and I want to hand off something I've done to someone that I know can handle it. So I have conducted interviews myself. I have recommended or not recommended dozens of candidates before. So I've definitely been in the interview on both sides of the interview process. I've interviewed myself for jobs, both in San Diego where I live, the Bay Area. At one point I actually interviewed for Apple, and it went well. They wanted to proceed to a next phase, and then I took a long, hard look about what I wanted to do with my career and where I wanted to go, and I respectfully told them that I wasn't going to go back up there. And I can get into other reasons why, but that interview, I do want to say, was actually not at all representative of what people say it's going to be like. They didn't ask me a bunch of bullshit, irrelevant questions. They asked me stuff relevant to what I was actually going to do for them. I thought it was a great interview. And again, you see all these stupid ass YouTube channels where they're like, oh, talking all, I don't know, I just, it just seems like there's so much posturing in the tech industry and everyone wants to be smarter than everybody else. Or there's a lot of that at least popularized on channels like YouTube, and it's not like that. And if it is, people like that shouldn't be they shouldn't be listened to as the representative voice in our industry. I've been throughout my career exposed to a lot of over-competitive programmer mentalities, a lot of, oh, how smart are you? How many algorithms do you know? And I've brushed that off throughout my entire career, and so should you, because the only thing that matters to me is what I've actually accomplished and what I've done. Because you can know these classical algorithms all day long, and if you haven't actually applied them to do anything innovative or interesting, then I kind of consider it almost like you're a professional interviewer, like you're a professional test taker. And I actually spot those kind of mentalities when I conduct interviews, and I'll throw them a curveball and maybe ask them a question that more relevant to applying actual work to the job, and they might actually fumble with that. And that's a bigger red flag to me than somebody who doesn't know the latest freaking graph algorithm or how to take something that might be O of n squared, which is an asymptotic, or not asymptotic, exponential growth. And maybe they make it slightly more efficient on a very large scale of work that might actually never be reached. So there might be nothing wrong with starting with that slightly less efficient algorithm, and then everybody knows how to Google that's a coder. Everybody knows how to optimize their stuff down the road when it's necessary. So I wouldn't fault somebody for not coming up with the theoretically optimum algorithm on the spot during a whiteboard interview or a live coding session. I actually think live coding interviews are not representative of the damn job. If you put somebody on the spot and expect them to be able to code an entire algorithm and an entire solution without Google, just in the middle of a Google Doc, I think it's quite ridiculous. And I would actually consider somebody that can do that to be rehearsing these very specific things. And if you want them to do anything creative, I'm not saying they can't, but you might not know. If you just blow the whole interview asking them this, very rigid, specific problem, then you haven't really discerned whether or not they can think outside of that box. So when I conduct interviews, I really aim not to intimidate the candidate. The first thing I always tell them is, hey, this is not something where I'm grilling you. All the questions are not going to come from me. I might even make some mistakes. I'm not perfect. Consider this just a discussion. We're just having a conversation. Let's just talk tech and have fun about it, because that way I can get an idea of how much fun you have with the job, because you should be enjoying it. And I think that loosens people up, and I've always had really, really good conversations as a result of that. I feel like there are more conversations in interviews. I've done take-home interview problems before, so kind of getting back to the idea of live coding interviews. I've given people problems and sent them, away, or say, yeah, just get back to me with how you would solve this, and then they'll send me it back, either email, zip file, GitHub repo, or something like that. And that's actually worked out well in the past. I don't really do that much anymore, but I feel like that's definitely better approach than freaking making someone code a solution on the spot, especially in some pseudocode and some live Google Doc. That makes no sense. I typically lean on, nowadays I just usually ask for code samples, just something they've written on their own, on their honor. Usually a link to a GitHub repo or something that they've published, or something that they've done. It goes back to the idea of portfolio. I'm really big on portfolio. To me, seeing someone's product that they've developed on their own completely is way more impressive than them being able to show me how to apply some sorting or graph traversal algorithm on the fly in some Google Doc. That's just how I am. It really just gets back to the key of, does this person have relevant knowledge enough to be able to do the job, the actual job they're interviewing for? And this is why I see so many people get discouraged when they see these big Facebook, Google interviews, and they're like, oh man, I'm discouraged. I can never pass these interviews. You don't have to pass those interviews. You can get way better jobs at companies where there's a lot more chance for you to grow into big roles by interviewing for companies that are not as bloated and as popularized as the big tech companies. And you're not going to have to move to or live in a place where it costs $3,000 a month to rent a one-bedroom apartment. And I know COVID changed that a little bit, but it's still somewhat relevant. A lot of these companies like to keep control of their workforce, and I don't see for a very long time a lot of them being okay with people living really far away from their home base office. But that's just an opinion. I could be wrong on that. But yeah, what I'm getting at here is there are interviews that are not nearly as daunting as that, and you shouldn't let that be the reason why you're too intimidated. And if you go to an interview where somebody hammers you like that and belittles you for not knowing the latest stupid classical algorithm, you need to brush that right off, because that's ridiculous, and I consider that a form of gatekeeping. As far as interviewing go, I've interviewed a lot of candidates that have language barriers. You should not. I don't pass judgment on somebody that has a language barrier as long as we can communicate, in some minimal way. I've when I was younger, I think I was a little, more, language barrier and stuff. But yeah, I think that's another form of gatekeeping in tech that can be a problem, and you know, it's just, in my experience, it hasn't been a problem when I actually work with people that are from all different backgrounds. It really just comes down to encourage people over discourage people. If you're interviewing juniors for junior roles, allow the juniors a chance to grow into their junior role. And I know that's a bit of a risk, but if it's a junior role, it's junior for a reason. If it's a lead role, obviously they need to be competent, but you don't need to go overboard and push them through what I consider like computer science hazing rituals. These special things that all little computer science people are supposed to wink and say they know about, like these asymptotic complexities and stuff like that. It does come up, but a lot of these jobs are freaking front end jobs, meaning they're like UI button work, like making a call to a server and getting back a RESTful answer, which is just parsing JSON. You're not going to run into asymptotic complexity on the scale that you've been taught in computer science school when you're working with small little data bits like that. You're just not. I mean, even the data structures aren't going to be, you can use almost an array for everything and it'll probably be fine. When you're on the front end. When you're on the back end and when you're doing large scalability stuff, sure. And a lot of the work I've done over the last decade or so has been 3D algorithms and a lot of 3D geometry and linear algebra. And I have both been asked and asked other people questions to make sure they have a background in that. And in that case, I guess it makes more sense. But again, there's no need to be snarky about it. If somebody knows it, you let them relax and they'll tell you. And if they don't, you just don't be rude. I don't know. Sorry, I'm kind of rambled in this video, but I just really had an issue with what I've been seeing on YouTube as the job interview, or I should say the tech interview, and how to pass them and what you should expect. And I'm here to say that that's really bullshit. So, yeah, fuck. All right, I don't know. Anyway, that's my video. But yeah, just please don't ever let any of that stuff discourage you if you want to be a professional coder or you want to do this for a career. You should just be focusing on your own work, your own coding, and just getting good at it, and try not to let all that other stuff, noise, discourage you. So, all right, guys, talk to you later.